Hello everyone, good morning. Okay, so from today we'll be starting with Java, right? So far we have discussed about basics of automation testing. What exactly automation testing it is, how we can automate any software application, right? So basics only we have discussed so far, and today I will be talking about programming. So in the last session also, I introduced you what exactly programming language it is, right? Why we need to learn programming. So in general, your computer system only understand the binary language, right? It is all about 0101 combination. But when it comes to the programming part, programming means like whatever Java language it is, in fact, Python language, any JavaScript, right? All these are comes under high level programming languages, correct? So yesterday we discussed about that there are two different types of languages available. One is low level programming language. Another one is high level programming language. Correct? What is the difference? In low level, usually you will be getting machine language. Correct? Plus you will be getting assembly language. So the point is, machine level language, even assembly language, it is quite difficult to read or quite difficult to understand by any human being. Correct? So it is all about the some kind of binary one, 0101 combination. Assembly language you will get in the form of some kind of commands. But usually what happen, your system, like whatever language, whatever code you will write, your system will understand only binary. So we need to have some kind of software which will convert source program into machine understandable language. And there we have introduced two important softwares. One is what? Compiler. Another one is a interpreter. So compiler, interpreter, both will do what? Both will convert your source program in the form of machine understandable language. And that's the reason system able to understand your instructions and system will able to perform certain operation. So the main point is what? We need compiler, interpreter, these kind of utilities in high level languages also. Whatever code you will be writing with C program, whatever code you will be writing with Java or Python, any of these programming languages, we need compiler, we need interpreter to convert source program into machine understandable language, right? So yesterday we discussed this part. Now, when it comes to the high level programming languages, very first they have just developed low level, but then they notice low level is quite difficult to understand, right? And that's the reason they develop high level programming language. Under high level, we are having very first before object oriented, we just have like procedural programming language, okay? Procedural oriented programming language. But yesterday we discussed about few parts, right? What does mean by procedural? Only key components or key points you need to remember. First of all the procedural programming languages, they simple follow top-down approach. Agree? Second part is every procedural programming language, they simple focus on, okay, function. Remember. So focus is always on the function, means whatever code they will write, within a function only they have to write that particular program. In fact, when it comes to the data, data is globally shared. Correct? Data is globally shared. And that's the reason, guys. Okay, in real time, if you see real time, mostly in every application, we just want security for our data. And that's the reason we are moving to object oriented programming language. Nowadays, applications developed in with the help of both the feature, procedural feature also and the object oriented feature also. And that's the reason object oriented is very, very popular because it works for the real time application. So procedural oriented, previously that one category was available where the C programming, HTML, VB script, all these languages are again popular one. And still we are following those languages to develop our software application. But then why object oriented? That is what we are going to understand today. So guys, these are the three key points which you need to remember in procedural programming language, which always follows top-down approach. It always focus on the function and data is globally shared. And that's the problem. Because if your data is globally shared, everyone can access that data, everyone can modify that data. And the same modification data, other function can also able to access, right? And that's the reason we need such a kind of language where we can maintain more and more data security. And then they came up with object-oriented programming language, right? But to understand what is object-oriented programming language, you need to first understand what is object, right? So let me start my introduction for this Java programming with the introduction to this object. What exactly object it is? Now, guys, few things, okay? See, any object. Object means what? Any kind of real-time entity which has its state as well as its behavior. So in general, whatever you observe, whatever you feel, whatever you touch, right? Everything we can simple call it as object only. Okay. So in terms of real world object, okay, every real world object we can convert in the form of software object. Remember. But for this, we need to understand what is object, right? So let me give you one simple example. Anything, whatever you can see, everything is object. So your mobile is object, your laptop is object, right? You and me both are objects only, correct? But the thing is, what is object? So every object has the two things. One is state, another one is what? Its behavior. So what does mean by state? State is nothing but it represent characteristics. Example C. If I take a simple example, example 1, if I take mobile, okay? So we have a mobile. Mobile is object, yes. Now, what are the state for the mobile and what is the behavior of mobile? How exactly that behavior point we can calculate or mobile state we can define? See, state is nothing but characteristics for every mobile. Generally, every mobile we have certain name, correct? Every mobile certain model name also available. Every mobile color can be different. Agree? Every mobile width can be different. Weight can be different. So all are these what we can say state of that mobile, right? So we can identify that mobile with some name, with some model number, with some color, right? Maybe some brand number, whatever it is, right? But guys, every mobile used for the common purpose. What is the behavior? Behavior defines functionality. So why, for what purpose we use mobile? Absolutely for talk, right? We can use a mobile to just generally for communication purpose. So I can say talk. We can send some messages with the help of mobile. We can watch some videos with the help of mobile, right? We can make simple call with the help of mobile. Okay. There are multiple things that we can do with the help of mobile. Now the point is when you talk about all the mobile, okay? So every mobile, they may have different name. They may have different model number. They may have different color. But guys, what do you think? All mobile behavior will be same. Every mobile we use for the same functionality. So when I talk about collection of mobile or collection of similar object, there we can represent one interesting term in Java that is called class. Basically, this term, object and class, it is common for all the object-oriented programming language. Okay? Class is what? Collection of object. And object is what? Any real-time entity which has state as well as behavior. That is called object. So this is the first example. Let me explain you example number 2. So if I talk about, let's take very general example, student. Student is the object. Okay? What are the state for the student and what is the behavior of student? So let's talk about this. State, absolutely every student, they have a name. Every student, they have roll number. Every student address can be different. Phone number can be different, right? Or there might be some other properties we can talk about like age, right? Height, all these things are different. What is the behavior? Every student here, like student can able to read. Yes. Student can able to write. Yes, student can able to play, right? Student can able to talk, right? There are many things that student can do. Every student is here to understand the concept. Learning, that's the main part, right? So all the student, they have a different name, different address, different phone number. But every student basic behavior will be same. So collection of students, I can call in the form of what? Object. So the main part is every real world object we can convert in the form of software object. And for this, remember, so when I talk about real world object, there are two parts, right? So one is state, another one is behavior. Now guys, here comes main part. When you convert every real world object in the form of software, what exactly terminology we need to use? Every state is nothing but data member. Remember, in terms of programming, every state we call data member, or you can just call this is what your data. Correct? This is what data. And every behavior, we generally call it as member function. Okay? So this is what functionality. Correct? Technically, it is a functionality. So can I say that every object, okay, it has memory which is partitioned into two parts. One is data, another one is function. And data and function, they can communicate like this, right? So this is my one object. Object which has two partition, data, another one is a function. So if there are two objects, how the two objects are able to communicate with each other? Guys, if I'm having two different objects, right? So there you can see the data security point. So object cannot communicate directly by sharing their data. Okay, they can't share data directly. Objects, they can communicate only and only through the function. Remember. So generally, what is an object? Any real-time entity which has state and the behavior, that is we can call in the form of object. So every object memory is what? Divided into two parts. One is data, another one is a function. And two objects, they can communicate only through the function. We can't directly share our data. This is the basic point. Okay. Now guys, when it comes to the class, let's understand what is class. So consider I'm having two students data. Okay. So this is my student one object. Let's say student one, I'm writing name is equal to Yesh. Okay. And this student is able to do read. Okay. Read functionality. This is student one object. I'm having another student object. Let's say name is Kiran. And Kiran also able to do read functionality. This is student two. So collection of students, a group of similar type of object we can represent in the form of class. And that's the reason these two group of students I can represent in the form of student class. Got it? So guys, what is a class? In Java or in every object oriented programming language, these two terminology you need to understand very well. What is object and what is class? As I told you, every real world things, okay, which has some state and the behavior, that is we can call object. But what is class? Group of similar types of object we represent in the form of class. Now let me give you examples. So when you talk about, let's say we have all the employee group, okay, employee group of the Wipro company. Then I can say employee group is nothing but the objects, and all the employee group, okay, for a Wipro company, Wipro will become a class here. Got it? So we all are a object of human being class. Got it? So me and you both are objects of what? Human being class. Currently, you all people are object of base IT tech class. Got it? So collection of objects or similar type of objects we can represent in the form of class. Now, why we are discussing this, right? Because how to start programming in Java? So very first in Java, everything, okay, single statement, even if you wanted to write, everything will begin with the class template only. Without class structure, you will be not able to write any program in Java. Got it? So in Java, we need to first define a class. Within a class body, you can declare your data, you can declare your function, and even you can declare execution point, which is very common in every programming language. That is a main function. We can declare main function and through which we are able to run our code. So class template and object information is important for us. Okay. So technical definition is what? Class is a blueprint. Class is a template where you can represent object information. And what is object? So it is a real-time entity which has state as well as behavior. Here comes the main part. Sometimes in interview, people might ask you, what is class and what is object? And what type of level we have for a class and object? Generally what? Class is a type of physical entity or class is a type of logical entity. So let me tell you guys, class cannot be physical entity. Okay, class is always and always, it's a logical entity only. Remember. And when it comes to the object, object can be physical. Yes, object can be physical. Even object can be logical. So what type of entity it is? Always remember class is a logical entity and object can be physical, object can be logical. Clear? So how exactly I can start with this program? If I really wanted to write this class, then in Java you need to understand two things. Okay? We can start writing with the template. So you will be writing something like this. I will come back to this part again. Okay? So public, class, and then we are going to write some class name. Few rules. Java is a case sensitive language, and that's the reason. Whatever class names will be there, class name always start with capital letter. So student or first class, whatever you are writing, it should start always with a capital letter. Suppose I'm writing student, okay? Then you need to write this kind of curly bracket. So what this curly brackets, call it as, actually in technical word, we can call it as scope or you can just call it as body, right? This is our class body. So whatever code you will be writing within this class structure only you have to write. Okay. So this class is a template and inside the class what we can write. For now understand, we can write any data, we can write any function, right? Within a class itself. And then we need, which is called, something most important, main function. Without main function, you will be not able to execute your any program. Guys, this part is important, okay? We should have a main function within a class body. So for now, just understand what is main function. I'll say this is entry and exit point. Okay? This is something we can call it as entry and exit point. Without this, you will not able to run your code and whatever statements you are writing inside the main, only those part you are able to see in the output. So this is very generic template that you need to understand how we are going to start our program, where exactly we are going to write our logic, right? So within a class body. So class is a main template which you need to design. And then inside the class, we will be writing data, function, main function, everything. Okay. This is a very generic template which you need to remember for Java program. But then why Java, right? When it comes to the object-oriented programming language, few key points again. So every object-oriented programming language where we have two important pillars, that is class, another one is object. These two important pillars are very, very important. Every object-oriented programming language follows bottom-up approach. Another second point. Again, what is the main focus? Like procedural programming language focus on function, but object-oriented programming language always focus on data security. Remember. So guys, data is a crucial part for us, okay? For data security, it always focus object-oriented programming languages. So in general, for every object, we have two partition, right? One is data, another one is a function. And that's the reason. Data is within that object only we can access. Outside that object, we can't access that data. Try to understand. So the focus is more and more on data security. Here, how we maintain data? Data we have as a object oriented data, means within that object only we can access that data. Clear? So that's again a part of a scope. We will discuss later what is the scope and how exactly, where exactly we can access that data. But these are the key points. But one more thing is there. Every object oriented programming language, they simple focus and they simple follow OOP principle. So here comes four important principle to know, right? And this we are learning in depth. So don't worry. Let me just introduce those OOP principles. One is encapsulation. You should know it very well. What is encapsulation? Then we have inheritance, correct? Then we have polymorphism. And there is a one more, which is called data abstraction. Okay. So these principles plays very important role. Okay. So because of this only, object-oriented programming languages are very, very popular. Why there is a popular demand for JavaScript, Java, Python, all these kind of languages? because all these languages will help you to handle any complex scenario, in fact, any real-time scenario, okay, whatever it is there in that real-time application. And that's the reason these programming languages become very, very popular. Okay. So we are going to learn this principle in depth, right? But before this, what is Java? This is we have just discussed related to object oriented. When it comes to the Java, first point, Java is a pure object oriented programming language. It follows all these principles, and that makes Java is a more popular programming language. Second point you need to understand is Java, first of all, it is very simple language. Means syntax of Java, okay, it is really very simple. You just need to remember how to declare any variable, how to declare any function. So syntax wise, it is simple language. Third point, Java is a platform independent programming language. Now, few things I wanted to discuss related to platform. So, guys, what is meaning of platform? In general, what does mean by platform? Any hardware and software configuration we can say, correct? So, technically, when I say platform, it is nothing but combination of operating system, okay, plus processor, right? This is we can call platform. But there are two types, right? Few languages are platform dependent. So I will be writing here. Few languages are platform dependent language. And here few languages are what? Those are platform independent languages. Now we need meaning of this, okay? What does mean by dependent? What does mean by independent? Yes, anyone wanted to try? Yes. Platform dependent means what? And platform independent means what? If I say platform is a combination of operating system and the processor, then anybody? Hmm.
So Java is platform independent. So on whatever platform you want, you can write the code and it will execute. But few languages will not work on specific platforms. So that is a limitation for platform dependent.
Okay, so then can I design in this way? It might be only, it support only one operating system, right? But processor can be any processor. Agree? That is called dependency. So few languages support only one platform. They can work only on one operating system. You have to write it and you have to run that code only on that same operating system. But when it comes to independent, the concept is what, guys? In independent, we can say that any operating system, in fact, any processor allowed. It doesn't matter what platform you guys are following. Anything will be fine. Okay. So let me design. So when it comes to the independency, absolutely any operating system, any platform is allowed. Let me talk about language comparison now. Guys, whenever you talk about C programming, in fact, C++, even C++ is an object-oriented language. But both the languages are platform dependent only. What is meaning of this? Please have a look. Suppose I'm using Windows platform. Okay. So I'm having Windows platform and I have written some C or C++ code. So what happened whenever you write that program? Okay. Some statements I have written, suppose every time the code will be executed directly by that platform and you will able to see the result. So the code I have written on Windows, it will be executed from the Windows and I will get the solution, correct? So here is the way, that is a direct way for execution we follow. Now whatever code you have written on Windows platform, you wanted to run this code on Linux platform, is it possible? Can I run directly that code on Linux platform? No, absolutely not. You guys are going to write again the same program on Linux platform also, and then only it will work from that particular platform. So this kind of scenario, we can simple call it as there is a dependency on the platform. So C and C++, both the languages are platform dependent. On whatever platform you are writing the code, you need to execute only from that same platform. But when it comes to Java, what happens? Why Java is independent? Guys, see. First of all, we write a Java program. Okay, whatever Java code it is. Let me design my platform here. Suppose I'm using Windows platform again. So Java code I have written on Windows platform. But guys, to execute a Java program, we can't directly follow operating system. Here on the top of the hardware, we have a very special layer, and that is called JVM, Java Virtual Machine. Every Java program will be executed only and only through the JVM, which is Java Virtual Machine. So once you write a code, code will pass to the JVM, JVM execute that code. Now JVM is available on that Windows platform, right? So there is a dependency between JVM and the platform. So JVM will execute that code on that platform. Then from that platform, whatever result it is, again through the JVM only, you will able to see that result. So how and what way we are following here for execution? It is indirect way. Are you getting the difference? Why Java becomes independent? Because to run Java program, we need a JVM, extra layer of that particular virtual machine. Without JVM, we will be not able to execute our Java program. So guys, these important components you should know. Okay, in Java, three important, we can say pillars and three important, environments are required. You should know what is JDK, JVM and JRE. So let me talk about the same part. JVM is just a virtual machine. Okay, with the help of JVM, we are able to execute our Java program. So every Java code when you write, if you don't have JVM, you will be not able to run that particular program. Clear? And you don't need to install it separately. In last session, we installed JDK. Remember? So nowadays, you know what happened? When you install JDK on your local machine, JDK stand for Java Development Kit. When you install JDK on your local machine, by default, you are getting JRE. In fact, you are getting JVM inbuilt in within that particular software. So now you are having JDK, you are having JVM, you are having JRE also, which is a runtime environment. I will talk about those particular component also. But this is what you need to understand. Because of JVM, Java is simple platform independent, guys. Let me explain one more point. So I'm not sure if you are aware about the previous technologies. Yes, only for particular operating system, correct. So here you can focus, okay? When you talk about C and C programming, let's say C++, right? So we design the source code. Now consider I have written here program hello.c. Yeah, normally extension will be C or CPP, correct? So suppose I'm writing this hello.c code and absolutely we call it as source code, right? Guys, what happened when you write a code, you need here compiler. Agree? So what the compiler will do, as I told you, whatever source program you will be writing, compiler will convert it in the form of machine understandable language. So in C programming, whenever I convert hello.c, it will convert in the file structure hello.obj file. Okay. After this obj file, which is again machine understandable language, okay, we can't read it. Generally, it is a machine language. And then you know what happened? Absolutely, to run this, we use a shell. And on the C shell, when you run this code, you will be getting final file structure hello.exe. Means see how the file is converted. First, you have written hello.c. It got converted into hello.obj, which is a machine understandable language. And then finally, it is converted into hello.exe. So this .exe file is a platform dependent, right? I can run it only on a Windows, only on a one single platform. So every C and C++ code when you run, final file extension, you will be getting .exe file. And that exe file is supportable only one platform. So only on one platform you are able to run that code. So if you're writing code on other platform, only on that platform you'll be able to run that particular program. Clear? So this is what the dependency structure. But now let's talk about Java. So how come Java is very, very popular and what exactly Java follows, right? So guys, please have a look. Suppose I'm writing same logic hello.java. Extension for every Java program is .java. Now you can call it as source code. Got it? So this source code, we don't need to use separate compiler like C and C++. Java has its inbuilt compiler. Compiler name is Java C compiler. As soon as you write a code, compiler will immediately convert that each and every statement into machine understandable language. So the point is, Here we have inbuilt compiler. Compiler name is Java C compiler, right? And absolutely compiler will convert your source program into machine understandable program. So here you will get an extension hello.class. Remember, .java file will always convert in the form of hello.class file. And there is another interview question. What hello.class file will contain? Always remember, hello.class file always contains some kind of byte code, right? Byte code, it is a code which is only and only understandable by machine. Okay, so we can't directly able to read it. Okay, so class file always contains some byte code. Okay. Then guys, how we can run this? Hmm? Just now we have discussed in Java, execution is only possible with the help of JVM. Agree? So whenever it is we are trying to execute this code, how the JVM execute this code? Please have a look. Here comes JVM. So JVM reads, okay, JVM reads byte code line by line, and execute. Now tell me, who is whose responsibility it is line by line code execution? Yesterday we discussed one more component. If you remember, interpreter will act like a same line by line execution. So yes, here JVM is nothing but our interpreter, and which will execute your bytecode line by line. So final extension for the file will be hello.class file only. And let me tell you, dot class file is platform independent. You can write a program once and you can execute it on any particular platform. That is allowed in Java. Remember, in Java, we can write a logic only once and we can execute it from any other platform. Okay. And that's the reason Java is very, very popular programming language. So, you know what happened? Suppose I have written a code on Windows machine. I have a dot class file, right? Same class file I can run directly on a Linux platform. But only we just need what? JVM over there. So every operating system, we can just have a JDK installation, right? And we can run our program. So this is what the main concept you need to understand. Java become very popular because of these, kind of features. So there are some buzzwords for Java. First buzzword is what? Java is a simple language. I will show you directly here. Just have a look. Java is a simple programming language. It is secure programming language because of only and only JVM. Okay, we have a one more layer. So any intrusion is occur, that will be handled by the JVM. Okay, your operating system keeps safe. So it is a very secure programming language. Platform independent, just now we have discussed. Because of the JVM, we have platform independence in Java. So we can write a code that will be executed by the JVM, and this is a complete indirect execution, right? We are having. So Java is a robust, means strong programming language. It has lot of features, lot of functionalities, and through which we guys are able to design, develop, and test even our software application. In fact, any type of application you can develop, okay, using Java. Web applications also, Windows applications also, in fact, mobile applications also, we are able to design and develop using Java programming language. So it is very strong programming language. It is portable. What does mean by portable programming language? Absolutely, on every platform, it is compatible, right? Architectural neutral. Now let me talk something about this. Okay, what is architectural neutral, guys? It is nothing but Java is a stable language. See, suppose, okay, you know that how we can store a data in any programming language. Like suppose we have this RAM, right, computer memory, and guys, I wanted to store some data here. Let's say I wanted to store 200. Okay, I can directly go to RAM and I can store 200. No, this is a wrong approach, right? Whenever you wanted to store something, you need a storage. Within that storage, you can store some data. Now, how it is possible in programming? So in programming, we have a very beautiful concept that is called variable. So variable is a, we can say, the memory where we can store certain data, whatever type of data you wanted to store. Now, in general, suppose I wanted to store 200, right, which is a number. To declare any number or to store any number, we have to write this statement. Int. Int stand for integer. Okay, so any number in Java, in fact, in any programming language, we can generally store with the help of int data type. Then I will be writing, suppose x is equal to what? 200. So what is meaning of this statement? 200 is a number which I'm trying to store into x type variable, and the type is integer. So what happens whenever you write integer, right? Integer data type. In fact, every data type specifies some storage, like how much memory it will occupy. So when it comes to C and C++ programming language, okay, these two languages are not architectural neutral. Means in C and C++, if you are writing this statement, and if you guys are using 32-bit machine, then it will hold 2-byte memory. Okay, now byte and bits, that's the memory pattern that we follow in computer system. 1 byte, which is nothing but 8 bits. Okay, so when you said 32-bit machine, yes, you can occupy only 2-byte memory. But suppose you are using 64-bit machine, it will occupy 4 byte of memory, right? So as per the storage, you are able to store your data, correct? So these languages, I can't say it is architectural neutral, but Java is architectural neutral. How come? In Java, suppose you are writing this statement, right? I wanted to store 200. Whatever your platform it is, doesn't matter. It is 32-bit or 64-bit. Java has specific memory for each and every data type. So Java will occupy commonly 4 byte of memory only on the both the platform. Even though you are using 32-bit machine or 64-bit machine, means you don't need to worry about platform, guys. Here it is a stable language. Got it? So Java is always architectural neutral because it's simple store, same memory for all kind of information, right? Depends on that type again. So whenever it is a byte type of data, something like I'm just holding some byte information, it will just occupy 1 byte. If you have any float information to be hold, okay, I will talk about this, what is this float and all. So you can able to hold only 4 byte information. So we have architectural stability in Java language, but which is not there in other programming languages. Okay, so our Java is a architectural neutral. Again, it can handle dynamic, programming part. So any real-time scenario we can easily handle. Complex scenario also we can easily handle with the help of Java language. Again, guys, why Java is a interpreted programming language? Interpreted means Java needs both compiler as well as interpreter. Correct? In C and C++, we need only compiler. But Java required both the thing, compiler also, interpreter also. So it is called interpreted programming language. Now, it will always give you high performance, right? Multi-threaded means multiple processes we are able to handle at a time in Java. Parallel sequential way also, execution way also possible because of Java programming language. And in fact, Java is a distributed programming language. So over a web also, we are able to use this programming language. So it is very popular. So object oriented and all these, all the principles, I mean to say that these all are the features that we have in Java language. Now when the Java came into picture in 1995, okay, James Gosling, known as the father of Java, they invented this language, okay, and since from 1995 still we are using Java programming language. So understand its popularity, correct? So only few key points you can remember for now. It is a platform independent language, architectural stable language, and it's the most powerful programming language. So this is all about the Java. You can write a code once and you can run it on any other platform. But as I told you, right, we need a JVM. Now let's talk about what is this JVM. So three parts you need to understand: JDK, JRE, and JVM. So guys, in shortcut, I will say that JDK stand for Java Development Kit. Now see, suppose we are a developer, right? So without, JDK, you can't able to write your logic. Simple. In Java, we need to write a code. So developers required what? Developers required some editor. Okay, developer required some kind of compiler. This kind of utility, right? Code to be converted into interpreter, compiler. We need document generation. So where you will get, in fact, debugger, correct? Debugger also required to debug the code. So where you will get all this utility? When you have a JDK, you will get all this utility. So Java Development Kit, JDK, It is actually followed by the developer. Okay, developer needs JDK to develop the code. So all the development process means debugger, right? Then I will say loader, linker. In fact, we have compiler, right? In fact, we have, let's say, that particular interpreter. Okay, better I will write interpreter, even document generator, right? Everything you will get, that is jar file, archiver file also we are able to develop, right? So everything you will get once you have a JDK. So suppose as a tester also, whenever you wanted to write any logic, very first on your machine, you should have a JDK. Once you have a JDK, you will be able to write your code. So somewhere, nowadays, if you just install Eclipse also, by default, Eclipse also provides you internal JDK. So in Eclipse also, you can able to write your direct code without JDK. But we are going to learn some automation concept. And there we need external JDK to be set up in our machine. And that's the reason. Yesterday I discussed how to install JDK on your machine. Just watch the recording one more time and complete the setup. So once you have a JDK, you will get this debugger, developer kind of, all the documentation, everything. Okay. Then what is JRE? So JRE stand for Java Runtime Environment. Okay. Now what happens, guys? Without runtime environment, you will be not able to run your code. So technically, we know that JVM is the component through which we can run a Java program. But JVM stand for virtual machine. Java virtual machine. So virtual machine means somewhere it has a physical location also. Yes. And where you will get a JVM physical location? Let me tell you, JVM is always available within a JRE. So JRE is a component. Okay. JRE is a component where you are having JVM physical physically JVM available inside a JRE, and JRE provides some class libraries, okay, some class libraries and some kind of additional files which will provide while execution of Java code. So whenever you are writing Java code using JDK, the code will pass to the JVM. But to run that code, whatever supportable environment is required, that is provided by the JRE. Got it? So now JRE, this runtime environment, how you will get? Is it you need to download, install separately? So guys, before JDK, like we can say in JDK 8, 1.8, okay, that version, we need to have both the things on our machine, JDK also, JRE also. But after that, what they does, like they have included all these three components within a JDK itself. Means if you have a JDK directly on your machine, now you don't need to install it separately. You will get JRE, you will get this development tool also. Means JDK, in fact, JRE, JVM, everything available in one software package. Whenever that package you install on your machine, you will be getting JDK also, you will be getting runtime environment also, which includes your Java virtual machine. So we don't need to worry about this part. And let me show you this one. So example, on my machine, previously I used JDK 1 also, 1.8 also. So when I come to the C drive, okay, just have a look. So when I come to the C drive and if I can show you that program files, okay, just have a look. Under program files, if I come to the Java, see previously for JDK 1.8 version, you can see that I'm having JDK also, I'm having JRE system also. Correct now? The both the things you need to install separately. But now I'm using JDK 17, latest version. Okay. Latest is 22, 23, I guess. Okay. But this is again most stable version. So when you just install JDK, now you don't need any external JRE system. It will be available within JDK only. Got it? So you don't need to install it separately. Within JDK, you will be getting runtime environment also. You will be getting JVM also. Correct? So this is how you need to understand JDK, JVM, and JRE. These are the three important components through which you are able to write a code and you are able to run your code. Right? I hope this theory is clear. Got it? Now, guys, installation we have already covered. How to install JDK, how to set up your JDK environment variable. And see, this is the older PPT. So I have given these steps for the JDK 1.8. But now you are having what? JDK Simple, we can say 17, or any latest version you can follow. Mostly 21, that is okay. Because we will be learning Jenkins also. So while learning Jenkins and all, right, we need specific JDK setup. And Jenkins doesn't work with letter JDK. That's the reason either 17 okay, 21 also okay. Fine. So we have a ID also. Now you already have a Eclipse also installed, right? So let's see how to write a code. One example at least today, right? So now those are new to programming. Okay, I will help you with the few things. Whenever, whenever you wanted to start learning any programming language, understand three steps. What is your expected result? Means what exactly you are expecting as an output. Okay, you should know very well what is your expected output. To write or to print that output, how to write a code. That is most important step. And third step, which is most important, understand tracing. What is tracing means? Tracing means understand how the code is internally working or executing. Once you learn in such a way, you will understand or you will become master in any programming language. Okay, so remember three rules only. How to, what is our expected result? To print such a result, how to write a code, and understand working flow of that code. So let me help you. So guys, first program I wanted to design. So let's understand our expected output. I'm expecting this output, okay? I just wanted to write here one statement, hello all. That's it. I wanted to print this output, hello all. Now to write this output, let's write a code. Correct? To print this output, let's write a code. How we can start in Java? Do you remember, as I told you, in Java, every program you can start with the class template. So very first, we need to design a class. How you guys are going to write a class? Always remember. Now, few terms I will be explaining today only with respect to this code. And we are going to learn it in depth way. So don't worry for any part. You know what happened? Whenever you are writing a class, we need to write first access modifier for that class. Now, guys, the new term access modifier. What is meaning of this? Access modifier will help you to provide access permission. So it's very simple. So example, some data I can keep as my private data. Now, whenever I say this is my private information, so private information I can't share with everybody, correct? Only I can access that private data, then the scope I can say private. Now my YouTube channel is publicly available, means everyone can access that YouTube channel, right? You can watch the video. So we have a public access. Similarly in Java, four access modifiers are there. First is a public, which you can access anything, whatever you declare, publicly available. Everyone can access. Very simple, like a scope. Second is private. Okay, private things we can't access everywhere, only with limited scope we can access that data. Plus we have default. Okay, default means what? Again, with respect to scope only, default means you don't need to declare any access modifier, then it will be by default type of modifier. But whenever anything default, you can access within that class and within a package. Now you don't know what is a package, right? So kindly wait, I will help you with this topic. But for now, remember there are four access modifiers available: public, private, default, and one more is there, protected. Now rule. Okay, few rules. Whenever you are declaring class, which access modifier you will be writing? See, if I say private class, what is the use of that class then in real time? So do not declare any class as a private. Do not declare any class as a protected. Okay, these two modifiers we don't follow for class level. For class level, either you design your class as a public or you can design your class as a default class. We generally follow public structure. So every time you will be writing something like this. Let me design the class. So here I will be writing public. Class is a keyword, compulsory you need to write, and please remember a rule. Keyword we always write, okay, in small case letter, means in lowercase letter, okay. So public is also keyword, class is also keyword, and there I'm writing, suppose this is my first class or first code, then I'm writing this way. As I told you, class is what? Always start with capital letter. That's the rule in Java, okay. Then I will be designing this curly bracket. Oh yeah, this is my scope, right? But I just wanted to print only one function, sorry, one message. So I don't need any function. I don't need any data to be stored. It is just print statement in Java, right? And guys, whenever you wanted to run something in Java, we need a main function. Without main function, you will be not able to run the code. Now here is a point. How to design main function? Let me write a syntax first. Every time you will be writing in this way only. Public, static, void, main. And inside the bracket, you have to write string, args arguments, and the square bracket. And then this is the body for main. Now let me explain what is this. Guys, public, class, public, static, void, all these you can refer as a keyword. Okay. First code, I'm able to identify that this is my class. Even main is a function. Okay. Let's see. Any name. Suppose I'm writing Priyanka and I'm writing with bracket. What is this? In Java, we can just call it as function. Remember, bracket indicate it is a function. Okay. Now every function, so main is a function. Main is having with the bracket with some argument, right? So I can say main and first code, these are identifier because I'm able to identify that this is my function. First code is my class. Got it? But now why we need to write such a long statement for main? Let me explain that part. You know, every function in Java, how you guys are going to declare actually. Let's understand that part. So let me remove this part first and let me explain. For every function, you just need to start with access modifier and the return type. Okay, so we have a common syntax. Suppose I will be designing hello function. Then I will be writing this like this. Public void hello. Okay, hello. This is my function. So we just have access modifier. What is void? Void stand for return type. Means generally what happen, your function can return the data. Okay, it's return the value. But whenever your function is not returning anything, we need to write void. Void means that at this moment, hello function is not able to return anything from this function. Suppose I wanted to return something, then I can write data type. But we will learn this separately. Okay, for now, just understand this is the syntax to design a function. But what type of function it is? I mean, in Java, how many different types of functions are there? You know what? We can declare a function as a simple static function, or we can declare a function as a instance function. Static and instance, these are the two types. Now, guys, what is the basic difference? Okay. If you design any function with static keyword, now static is very special keyword in Java. This will help you for the proper memory management. Remember, just you can write down that note. Static plays very important role in Java and that will help you for the memory management. So if I declare any function like this, public, let's say static, return type is must, void, and again I'm writing hello, right? Here I can say this function is a static function and any function which is declared without static keyword, we can call it as what? Instance function. Now, what is the difference? Why we have this kind of two different functions, right? See in Java, as I told you, class and the object are the two important pillar, right? Currently, I'm just designing the class. But there is a rule. Anything if you declare inside the class and if you wanted to run it. Currently, I haven't any written anything inside the class. I have just write what? I have just written main function, correct? So I'm not declaring any separate data. I'm not declaring any function in my class. But tomorrow we will see when you declare some data, when you declare some function within a class, to call that member of a class, you need an object. Got it? So technically, every time we need to declare an object of class, and through the object only you can access everything. But there is another rule in Java. If you have any data or any function as a static function or static data, then that static thing you can directly run without any object. Means if you have without static keyword anything if you declare, to run this we need an object, correct? But for static data, no object required. Got it? So why main function is always static? Because Java says that Main is the entry point. To run main function, you don't need to declare any object, right? Once you execute this code, JVM directly read your main function by taking help of your class name. So direct static things, whatever are there, we can run it directly by taking class name, guys. With the reference of class name, we can run static things in Java. That's the reason main function always you have to design in the static way. Got it? Okay, why public? So if you, let's say, I'm writing this code on my desktop, right? And my JVM is available in my C drive. How the C drive JVM will understand where is the code and from which location you are running? So whenever you say that, okay, my code is a public code, my main function is a public function, JVM from anywhere in your location, right? JVM can access that function. So the point is, for main function, only one modifier allowed, which is public. You can't write private, default, protected, anything. Got it? So this is how the same syntax you have to follow every time to design your code. Public static void main. Void is a return type, main is a function. And what is there in that bracket? String arguments. Generally what happen, we can, somewhere we can pass an input from your keyboard also, right? So I wanted to type my name, Priyanka. Priyanka is what? Collection of characters, right? In general, in Java, group of similar type of data you can hold, collection of data you can hold with the help of array. So we have string arguments, which is actually called command line argument. What is this? You can just understand command line argument means somewhere your main function is capable to accept some external data also, which you are passing through your keyboard also. Got it? And that's the reason this is compulsory statement you need to write. So this is fixed syntax. Okay, there is no change. Perfect. But now the main part, how to print. We are expecting this statement to print, right? So please understand, in C programming, generally we have a printf statement. Okay. In C++, we have a cout statement. Similarly, in Java, we have a specific syntax to print anything on your console, right? Mean generally we use system class. You need to write system dot out dot print ln. So this is the function, and whatever statement you wanted to print with semicolon, you'll be writing here. Suppose I'm writing hello, right? So guys, understand meaning of this line. Means this line you have to write every time to print anything in Java. So what is system here? Now Java support two different types of classes. One is predefined class, another one is a user defined class. Predefined means few classes are supported by Java itself. So system is a predefined, which is provided by whom? Provided by Java. So system is a class. Out is a object of system, or we can say print stream class. So there is another class which is a part of system class, and that class name is a print stream class. I'll show you that class also. And out is an object of that class, and println is a method of that print stream class. Class name is print stream. Okay. So when you write this statement with the help of this system.out is called actually output stream, which will help you to print something on your console. So whatever statement you will write in the double quote, that statement will be printed in your console. This is a simple syntax that you need to follow, write your Java program. Now this is first program only. Let me show you practically how you guys are going to write this logic, right? Now, guys, as I discussed that we are going to use editor, that is Eclipse editor, correct? So you need to open your Eclipse editor first. Now, whatever workspace you guys are following, that is fine. Okay, I will be changing the workspace for your batch. So let this open first. Let me just give you basic demo today, and we will continue again this topic tomorrow, programming part. Now, no more theory, only practical approaches will be talking. Okay, fine. So let this open. Yeah, first time when you start Eclipse, right, it will take some time. And you can also open with me, no problem at all. Let me help you how to start, right? So I will be creating a plain, first of all, your workspace, and then we will start from the scratch. Okay. So this is the editor where you can write your logics. Now all the Selenium code, everything will be writing here only. So guys, what I'm going to do is I will be changing the workspace. So if you wanted to change workspace, this is how you can do. Okay. Come to the switch workspace. Now you can see there are many workspaces I have already created and using. So let me browse the location. Suppose I will be taking, okay, this learning itself, and let me design here new folder. Okay. So this is weekday, I will say December 24, right? And let me select this folder. That's it. This is my workspace I will be using now. So when you first time open Eclipse, you will get a welcome screen. Now when I change my workspace and I'm using some new location, right? I will be getting the same, that kind of, a new workspace and new space. Yeah, you will see welcome screen, right? Now you can remove this. Now please have a look left hand side, as yesterday you have installed Java for, Eclipse IDE for Java developer, right? So you will be getting Package Explorer. I'm using Enterprise Edition, so I'm getting Project Explorer. First, I will convert to plain Java. So when you come to this open perspective, there is at the right hand side, you will see the option, behind that search, there is an open perspective option. There you can see by default, I'm using Enterprise Edition. So I'm getting this default, right? In your case, it might be plain Java. So just take a plain Java and let me open this. Perfect. This is what the view we are having. Now, guys, whatever the components you are able to see outline and all, you can just remove that component. Okay, we don't need it. Java doc and declaration and all. Just keep it simple. Left hand side package, and this is the front screen where you can write your logic. But how to start? Package Explorer. Okay, package is another term in Java. Generally, what happen? We can maintain collection of classes. So collection of classes we can store within a package. So package is like a storage area, okay, where you can store your collection of classes. So without any project, we are not able to start anything in Java, right? So in Eclipse, the very first step is you are creating a project. How to create a project? See, by default, you are having this option here, create a Java project. Or you can come to file, and inside a file also there is a new, and this option is available, Java project. Okay. So once you open this, you will get this window, and here you can write a project name. So for now, I'm writing Java Learning. That's my project name. Any name you can write, doesn't matter. Do not change any environment variable, okay, or environment JRE variable, or this kind of, data. Just keep it as it is. Now, guys, there you can find out this one. Letter JDK, you will be getting this particular object, this particular module concept. And there you can see by default it is checked. Create module information. You need to uncheck it. Do not create any module information. Just create a plain Java code, plain Java project, and just uncheck the checkbox. Then you can come to next and click on finish. That's it. At left hand side, you can see Java learning is ready. Inside that, you will get a two things only. One is your JRE system library. This is your runtime environment, correct? So by default, you are getting it here. Plus, you will be getting SRC, which is a source folder. Now, under the source folder only, I will be creating my class. But guys, how? Very first, we need an area where we can store our classes. So I will be right clicking on SRC, and see, I will be creating here package. Correct? Suppose I'm writing here. Now, how to write a package? We have a rules for that. Okay. With proper naming convention also, we have to write our package name. Means somewhere we can write with com. Okay. Package name always start with a lowercase letter. So just write in this format. Com dot. Okay. And here I can write day 1, day 2, day 3, whatever package it is. For now, I'm writing it is week 1. Right. And I will be just clicking on finish. Done. Com dot week 1, and then you have to right click on that package once the package is ready. Generally, what is package? So I can say package is just a storage area where we can store group of classes. So once you have this package ready, right, you can right click on week 1, and then you can come to new, and there you will get the option C class. So under this package, I will be designing my first class today. So once you write class, it will ask you class name. Please write always with capital letter. I'm writing first code. Got it? Then just click on finish. And once you create this class, you will be getting this way. Now let me show you this class. Yeah. So guys, you can see this is the body. Whatever you are writing within this scope only. Outside this, if you try to write anything, that will not allowed in Java. So this is my first code class which is ready. But yes, I just wanted to show you print statement, right? So for that I need here main function. So how to design main function? Public static void main, correct? And inside the main you need to write string. Always remember, whenever you are writing string, S must be capital, because in Java string is not a data type, string is a class. That's the reason every class name starts with capital letter. So write string as a class means capital, and then I will be writing arguments and this array syntax. And after that, you have to write this body. Okay. So curly brackets plays important role that defines you the scope. Okay. For that main function. In fact, for that particular class. Okay. Now see, this is my class structure. This is my main function, right? So within this main function, I wanted to show you how exactly I will print anything inside a Java. So guys, now if I run the code, there is nothing to print, right? So you will not see any output. To print anything, I will be writing system. So please make a note. System S must be capital as it is a predefined class, like a string class. After system, if when you put dot operator, now why we are able to access all these things? So whatever there inside that class, any method, any variable that you can access with the help of this, okay? With the help of dot operator. So at this moment, when I say dot, see, I can have output stream. Out is a print stream, right? Output stream, in is a input stream, everything we are having. So currently, what is the meaning of this? When I say out, you can see the word, I mean this that complete statement. Out is written, colon is there, print stream is written. And then there is a hyphen and system. There is a meaning of this particular statement, everyone. See, 2 minutes only, okay? I know it's time is over, but please have a look. Suppose I'm writing this way, integer x is equal to 10, right? So what happens? Suppose this x is available, which is a type of integer, correct? So somewhere you might able to see in this manner, x colon int. And suppose I design this x variable inside class A and I'm having this state. So what is the meaning? X is a variable because it's not a method, right? It is just a variable and it returns integer type of data. And this is coming from class A. Similarly, now what you can see, whenever you are writing system.out, right? System.out, you are getting in this pattern, out colon print string, and there is a hyphen and system. Guys, let me tell you how to read this. Out is a variable. Okay, but this time I will say it is a reference variable. How come? What is difference between basic variable and reference variable? See, any variable, if it returns the basic type, basic primitive types, okay, means int, float, we are going to learn it, right? So basic type information, if you are getting, that is called basic variable. But when you see, return type is always start with any class. Means out is returning what? This is not data type. Print stream is not data type. Int is a data type, right? But print stream is what? Even though you are not aware what is print stream, just check the syntax. If it is written, any word, if it is written in Java with capital letter, okay, P is capital, C is capital, H is capital, then you can directly refer that thing as a class. So whenever return type for any variable is a class, we call that variable as a reference variable. Remember. So how to read this? Reference variable. This section, whatever it is written, that is your what? Return type. Remember. This is return type. And this out is a object or out is a simple reference variable for which class? So class is system. From the system class, we are getting this out object. Got it? So you need to read this, and absolutely once you have a enough practice, you will understand this particular pattern. But for now, you can directly write out dot print ln, correct? And there I can design the method, and here I can write that statement, hello all. That's it. And this is the exclamatory mark which I wanted to write. And every statement in Java ends with semicolon. Don't put semicolon after class, after main function. Only within a main, whatever you are writing, just keep your, syntax, follow the syntax. Now my code is ready. How to run? You can directly right click, you can come to run as and see, run as a Java application. First time whenever you execute any program, you will get this window. Always save your resource by default and click on OK. So you can see I'm getting result here. Hello all got printed inside the console. Got it? So whatever statement you will be writing, you will able to see this kind of result. Everyone, are you clear how to write a first program in Java? Got it? So
Yes, ma'am.
there is one homework for you. Just try this code. Okay. What I want, create another class and there should be this output. Okay. Welcome to learn Selenium. One more statement I wanted to bring. Welcome to learn Java program. Try this. Okay. Print two statements in your console. Write a Java program where you are able to print two different statements in your console. So once you complete the code, take a screenshot and send directly in your WhatsApp group. Okay. Once you complete your code. Fine. Clear na? What is the
Yes, ma'am.
basic assignment? Yeah. So start today with this code. Okay. Everyone set up the Eclipse and just write this particular program. Fine.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Chalo. So have a nice day and happy Christmas to everyone. Right. Enjoy your day and we will continue again tomorrow. Yeah. Thank you everyone. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, ma'am.